So when you hear the name Marie Antoinette, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Probably some crazy tall hairstyle, right? Or maybe that infamous quote, "let them eat cake." But the real story of France's last queen, it's so much more complicated and honestly way more tragic than just one quote she probably never even said. She was a total icon of glamour, a magnet for scandal, and in the end, a symbol of a world that was literally falling apart. And it all ends right here. Not with some defiant revolutionary cry or a big political speech. Nope. It ends with a quiet, almost polite apology. These were her actual last words. It's just such a human moment, isn't it? It completely cuts through all the myths and really gets to the core of her story. A fall from heights you and I can't even imagine, all the way down to this final grim moment. Okay, but to really get why the end is so shocking, we have to go back to the beginning. Because before she was the hated Queen of France, she was an Austrian archduchess, basically a political bargaining chip sent to the most dazzling and dangerous court in all of Europe. I mean, just try to picture this. You're 14 years old and you're shipped off to France to marry a guy you've never met, the future king. They even change your name. Her arrival was this huge, celebrated event. She was young, she was beautiful, and everyone saw her as this symbol of hope, of a new alliance between France and Austria. The public, they absolutely loved her. But that love, it turned out to be incredibly fragile. Once she became queen, the very lifestyle that people first celebrated started to become a major source of anger. That golden crown was starting to look pretty tarnished. And pretty soon, she got a new nickname, Madame Deficit. Now, let's be super clear here. France's money problems were huge. We're talking deep, systemic issues from years of expensive wars and a totally broken tax system. But her spending, it made her the perfect, easy-to-see target for all of that national rage. And these things, well, they were politically a disaster. Those giant poof hairstyles, they just screamed out of touch. And her private little retreat, the Petit Trianon, was seen as her basically thumbing her nose at the super rigid life of the French court and all the powerful nobles who lived there. And then there was this, 6 million livres for a private castle. This was at a time when the government was speeding towards bankruptcy and tons of people were literally starving. The optics, as we'd say today, were just catastrophic. This one purchase really sealed her image in the public's mind as this wasteful queen who just didn't care. But it wasn't just about the money. The thing that really, truly destroyed her reputation for good was a scandal that she had absolutely nothing to do with. This was the moment it all became, well, irredeemable. It sounds completely nuts, right? How could you possibly be ruined by something you never even laid eyes on? Well, get ready, because this is the story of the affair of the diamond necklace. A con job so wild, it honestly sounds like something out of a movie. The key thing here is how she reacted. She was furious, of course, and demanded a public trial to clear her name. But it backfired, like spectacularly. When the cardinal was found not guilty, the public just assumed he was an innocent fool and that the queen had to have been the real mastermind behind it all. So even though she was the victim, in the court of public opinion, she was guilty. Case closed. So, with her reputation completely in tatters and the entire country just boiling with anger, that storm finally broke. The whole world of Versailles, with all its fancy rituals and luxury, was about to be washed away for good. And man, did things unravel fast. The Bastille fell, the royal family became prisoners in their own capital, and then they made their biggest mistake of all, the flight to Varennes. Their failed attempt to escape France was seen as the ultimate betrayal. It proved to everyone that the king and queen were enemies of the revolution. And this one detail just says it all. It comes from her lady-in-waiting, who said that the stress of being caught and dragged back to Paris was so terrifyingly intense that her hair literally turned white overnight. That physical change really mirrored her political one. The glamorous young queen was just gone. From this point on, her life was just a grim countdown. The monarchy was officially over, and the Queen of France was now known simply as prisoner number 280. I mean, just look at this contrast. It's staggering. From the massive, opulent palaces of Vienna and Versailles to a single, cold, damp cell in the Conciergerie prison, a place they chillingly called the antechamber to the guillotine. No privacy, no power, just guards watching her every move as she waited for the end. The fall was complete. The trial itself was mostly for show. Everybody knew what the verdict was going to be. But it still had one last, truly shocking, dramatic moment. So the charges were a mix of what you'd expect: treason, bankrupting the country, and then something unthinkable. The final accusation, that of incest with her own young son, was just this vile piece of propaganda. It was designed to destroy her not just as a queen, but as a human being, as a mother. At first, she wouldn't even dignify the charge with an answer. But when they pushed her, she turned away from the judges and spoke directly to the people in the room. Her appeal to all mothers was this incredible moment. For the first time in years, she wasn't the Austrian. She wasn't Madame Deficit. She was a mother appealing to other mothers. And for a moment, it said that even the women in the crowd, her biggest enemies, were actually moved. But it didn't change a thing. At 37 years old, she was put in an open cart for that final humiliating journey, exposed to the screams and insults of the Paris mob. The trip took over an hour. At the end of it, she climbed the scaffold, accidentally stepped on her executioner's foot, and said those final, strangely courteous words. So, what do we make of her? Was she the evil queen from all those pamphlets? A clueless party girl who got what she deserved? Or was she really just a victim of her circumstances, a foreign teenager who was completely unprepared for the viper's nest of the French court and the giant wave of history about to crash down? Maybe the real truth is that she was neither, and both. Maybe she was simply a symbol, the living, breathing embodiment of an old world that the revolution was determined to destroy, no matter who got in the way. And that's really the question her story leaves us with.